All right, so let's kick off. Do you think that the lockout is? I think to start with the way it's covered. How do you have problems with the way that it's been covered, just from a general perspective of kind of seeing a middle ground between what the players had and what the owners are demanding? As the players should just take it because still a ton of money and we need a season to happen. Do you think that sports writers are influenced by their own love of basketball and desire for there to be a season?
I think that the influence probably comes more from the general belief that the players are going to lose no matter when it happens. Like if you listen to the undercurrent, a lot of those people who say they need to just take the deal. Of course, there's the argument that they make a whole lot of money, and we can, we can get to that one certainly later. But that's the big argument. The average salary is $5 million a year. Even if they don't get 5 million, they're going to get a lot of money. What that ignores, of course, is that if I've been getting paid $5 million for whatever period of time, I got bills according to the fact that I make $5 million. I can't just go take three. It's not that simple. My life is built around this $5 million. We can argue all day long about whether that's a lot of money or not, but the reality is that for whoever it is, I got my life built around $5 million, and now you're asking me to dial back. That's a little bit crazy, right? And I don't think that people evaluate it in that context. But on the other hand, look, the general perception is that NBA players are broke and that they spend all their money, and certainly some of them do. I would not say a lot because I don't know enough of them. But they spend a lot, people spend their money, and we think that at some point they were just going to have to cave. They seem better equipped not to cave this time. It's worth noting the last time they went a long time without caving, even though the argument was that they didn't have any money to hold on to. But I think the biggest thing is that writers in general think that the players are going to lose. And if they're going to lose, they might as well give up now.
Yeah. Well, first off, hey Bomani, and second off, I'm wondering. You talk about how people think that it's a foregone conclusion, and how that certainly colors the analysis of what the players should do and how we judge the players' actions. You're fond of a term, meat peeping, and you brought it up
Yes.
in the context of this lockout. And I want to know, do you think that what is meat peeping, and is that influencing the way people cover this and the way people talk about it?
Well, it's certainly affecting the way that people perceive it. For me, the concept of meat peep, and I was looking at this bizarre fascination we have in the sports internet media with people clicking on pictures of other men's penises, and it's you can make all the jokes you want to make about it, right? But then people automatically be like, "Hey, man, why you want to look at another man's penis?" And of course, there's this undertone that you're picking on them for being a homosexual. Except that's not even the issue. These are like heterosexual men that sit at their homes and are like, "Gee, I wonder what that guy's penis looks like." I have no idea why you care what somebody else's penis looks like. You got the one that you got. That's the one you got to ride out. That's the one that you got to work with and, make the best of it. But when you sit around wondering about what somebody else has that has no effect on what you're doing, and it is only as a basis of comparison and you're measuring your life against theirs, then you're meat peeping. You're no different than these people who go click on the internet pictures and want to see how their penis measures up to Greg Oden's. Why do you even care? Chances are there's a level of insecurity that you have within yourself. That is what we have in large measure with the lockout. Anytime somebody makes an argument that's on the basis of the NBA's average salary is $5 million, da 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 da. Of course, that completely ignores that there is a very, very, very small number of people that are capable of doing the things that NBA players are capable of doing. It also ignores the magnitude that one player in the NBA can have to the fortunes of an entire team. We could be talking about a great player like a LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant sort of caliber. Or on the other end, we could be talking about a guy like James Posey, who's the difference between the Celtics winning a championship and not. So how are you going to say that somebody like James Posey isn't worth the $5 million that he gets paid? That's where people really get me on that. And so when people start talking about, well, it's still a lot of money, they're getting paid to play a child's game, the part of it that angers isn't the right word, but it just kind of throws me off is that by the same token in this video game generation, we can say that these owners are playing a child's game. They're playing Sims. They're playing fantasy basketball. They're working around. They're messing with parts. They're getting money back on the other end. The same way all of us would love to play basketball, all of us would love to own a basketball team, but nobody has any expectation that those people should show gratitude. We only meet people on the players. And it's really sad because you're not going to win. They just got a lot more money than you ever will.
Yeah, and you said before that a lot of the perception from writers has to do with, oh, they're going to lose anyway, so they should just get on with it. To use a term that I've read a lot in the political arena, I feel like there's a lot of concern trolling going on, meaning that you tell somebody you want somebody to do something, so you feign concern on their behalf, saying that if you don't do that thing I want you to do, it's going to be bad for you. I feel like there's been a lot of that tone in regards to NBA players. Well, if you don't take this deal right now, because I want basketball to start right now, is the subtext of it, then it's going to be bad and you're going to lose out. Do you think that that is influencing the coverage from certain NBA writers? And I say that one particular instance that I'm thinking of as an example is that Kevin Garnett is getting blamed for ruining the deal. And I'm wondering why that isn't just discussed as something that happened. Why is it discussed in terms of Kevin Garnett screwing up? If we're just reporting on it, then it should just be that Kevin Garnett did this, not that he ruined anything, because, in theory, we shouldn't be biased towards the NBA starting whenever. So I just wonder, do you think that concern trolling is a factor here?
I think that in our industry overall, we have a tendency to kind of make stories out of, well, what the reaction is going to be, right? You say, well, we'll make a big story and the story will become big because we'll say, oh, the reaction is coming. And I don't even know half the time if the reaction is going to come, right? We will talk about it and make that a story that'll lead us up until the reaction comes around, and then we go from there. Now, it's funny you mentioned the Kevin Garnett story. Here's what I find interesting on that one. I need to see what Kevin Garnett was actually doing. If he was so intimidating and he scared to people so much, saying he was glowering and everything else, hey man, let's have ourselves a real live important moment where we're just going to be honest about the way the world works, okay? Black men often scare the bejesus out of older white people, out of younger white people. It doesn't take much for a black man to do something and all of a sudden be categorized as being angry. I can tell you stories about people that I've worked for who knew me well that were afraid that I was going to do something in a situation that wasn't even like that, right? So if the report is from the owners that Kevin Garnett intimidated them, that doesn't necessarily mean that it required or it took very much to intimidate them. So an owner or somebody on the owner's side said that Kevin Garnett was glowering. That doesn't tell me anything. I need to know exactly what was going on. And I have no idea why we're going to assume that the demographic that we've got from the owners maybe, just maybe, might overreact on what they consider to be Kevin Garnett being angry.
Yeah, and we don't exactly know what happened. I think what also bears mentioning is that Garnett has made more money off of NBA owners than anybody in the history of basketball. And for people to act as though he was born yesterday and that he doesn't know what he's doing, well, he's been the most successful guy. And there's even a 1990, I can't remember if it's 1998 or 96, there's an article in Sports Illustrated about how he kind of used that intimidation to his advantage in negotiations and interviews with agents, and how he'd get all his friends together in the same room. And, that KG might actually sort of use that fear, and it might, perhaps might even help him. But I didn't see a whole lot of discussion of that as a potential angle.
Well, the other part is, why is it not? I mean, we know clearly that David Stern will try to intimidate to the point of being patronizing. And you've seen people discuss, I don't want to say that nobody has discussed the idea that David Stern and his personality have hamstrung these negotiations, but it was not presented in the way that people took it with this Kevin Garnett story, right? That definitely got run with, and then we went from there. But let's be honest about this. If you're a grown man and you let Kevin Garnett scowling at you make you not want to do a deal, then you're a punk. And I'm not going to blame Kevin Garnett because you're a punk.
I don't know about that, man. Kevin Garnett is pretty big.
He ain't fighting nobody. You watch the NBA games. There weren't any rookies in that boardroom. There weren't any Europeans in that boardroom.
Yeah.
That's who Kevin Garnett likes to intimidate. But nobody, who remembers Anthony Peeler having Kevin Garnett with the chicken wing? Remember the chicken wing? He had Kevin Garnett with the chicken wing. If somebody with a chicken wing, Kevin Garnett, the owners wouldn't have had any problems.
I feel like that's easy for us to say from the sidelines and not in the boardroom potentially.
Let me tell you something. If you remember this, let's think about this for a second. Given some of the things we talked about with David Stern and everything else, if David Stern felt comfortable putting his finger in Dwayne Wade's face and talking to him like this, they understood that this is a no fighting zone. They recognize, They don't think anybody's going to be crazy enough to fight him. They don't think Kevin Garnett's going to hop over the table and fight him. That's just some propaganda they put out there because they knew it would sell. And of course it sold. And that's one of the dangerous things about this lockout in the coverage.